I'm Carla Schroer of Cultural Heritage Imaging, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the inspector tool that's part of the Digital Lab Notebook software. That's going to be number 4 here in our workflow for using the Digital Lab Notebook. Let's get started. So I'm here on the Project and Image Bundles tab within the main interface, and if I choose Projects and I open a project, I can go to the Image Bundles tab and I can see just the image bundles that are part of that project. Or I can open the Image Bundles tab and I can see all of the image bundles in the system. Right now, there aren't very many because this is just the sample data that comes with the software. But in all of these overview windows, you can sort by name, you can sort by type, you could sort by the project. So whatever makes it easier for you to find the image bundles that you're looking for, there are different ways to do that just by clicking on the top here to sort by that name, for example. Let's take a look at the inspector. So I'm going to grab this example, this RTI example here, and as soon as I select it, then I have these options along the bottom. And right here is the inspector button. Inspector works on image bundles, so you have to select an image bundle before you get the ability to run the inspector tool. So I click on that and it's going to bring up the inspector window. Now, I can look right here in the results and see if this has already been inspected, and I can look at past results. I also have the ability, let's say the inspector found some errors and I fix those errors and I run the inspector again, I can select the previous one that had errors and I can remove that from the system. By selecting it, I can delete it. I'm not going to do that right now, I just wanted to show you you can do that. So to run the inspector, we just click inspect and it's going to inspect all of the image sets that are part of that image bundle. This is an RTI, which means by definition, it only has one image set. But if I had photogrammetry, it might have multiple image sets. So this one, nice and clean, everything looks great. It's doing 3 different sets of tests, and it then updates the DLN, the database, with the results of your inspection. So let's take a moment and talk about what it's doing here, and then I'll show you one where we put some errors in the data that makes it a little more interesting to see the kinds of things it can find for you. So the first set of tests is the file tests. And what the file tests are checking for is just making sure that where I have archive images and working images, generally those archive images are going to be DNGs or TIFFs. My working images, it's going to depend on the technology and the software, but probably JPEGs, might be TIFFs. It's going to compare those just to make sure that they match, that I have the same names and the same number of files. The second set of tests is the capture tests. And what that's doing is it's looking at the metadata that comes from your camera, the EXIF metadata, which has your camera settings. And it's going to check those against a set of rules. Those rules are specific by technology. So for example, if I am doing an RTI, the only valid setting on my camera is to be in manual mode because everything needs to be locked down for that image set. If I'm doing photogrammetry, then I'm allowed to be in manual mode, or I could be in AV mode where I choose the aperture and the camera chooses the shutter speed, because it's okay for the shutter speed to vary when I'm doing photogrammetry, but not when I'm doing RTI. So these kinds of rules are built into the system. And the capture test is just looking at those settings from the camera, the focal length of the lens. It can check in most cases whether the focus changed using a setting called approximate focus distance. The third set of tests, which are the transformation tests, those are checking when I convert my raw images, because you should be shooting raw, when I convert those to make my archival files and my working files, that I followed a good practice and a good set of rules for those. So for example, I should not be applying sharpening to the images. I should not be applying, in general, contrast curves unless you have a curve that is specifically part of a custom profile for your camera. So there are various rules like that that are built into the system, and I'll show you a couple of examples. This one's really clean. I also have the ability to open up here and look for each image set at information. So let's go look at one that has some problems. And that would be, let's look at this photogrammetry one. So if I choose to inspect that, you'll see that it has 3 image sets. So all 3 of the image sets show up here because the rules are per image set. For photogrammetry, we want to put images in a different image set if we change things like the focus or the aperture, or it's a physically different camera or lens. So grouping things into image sets allows the inspector to check whether things that should not be changing within that image set are in fact locked down. And it also helps remind us when we go to do our photogrammetry projects to keep those different image sets in different calibration sets in the software. So this is really helpful to us, and it helps the inspector know which things to check against which other things. So if I go to inspect this, I'm going to see there's some errors here. And those are broken out by the different image sets. So in the first image set, my file tests are good, my capture tests are good, but I had some errors in my transformation tests. So whereas if I look at these other image sets, they're all just clean. So the problems that I have are right here in that first set of images. And if I go to look at a specific transformation error, it's going to tell me what that error is when I click on it. So in this case, what happened was the image had a property of the lens distortion, and that was left on at 100. And it really should be set at 0. If you're doing photogrammetry, you do not want, when you're making your JPEGs or your DNGs or your TIFFs, to be distortion correcting, because the photogrammetry software needs the undistorted images so that it can properly calibrate your camera and then undistort it based on that calibration. So if for photogrammetry distortion has been left on, that's an error, and the software will flag it for you. And what's great is that you can go back and remake those files, run the inspector again, get a clean inspector report, and then life is good, move on, do the rest of your processing. So this helps you to manage your data within the Digital Lab Notebook software, and also to give you reports, and then those reports become part of the metadata that is output when you make your final submission information packages. One last thing that I want to show you about the inspector is that there is a reference for the inspector in the user guide, and that tells you a lot more information about the specific tests and what it's doing, the different kinds of results that you can get. You can also, there's a difference between a warning and an error that the system tracks, and that's all described here in the inspector reference. So remember to check out the other videos, check out the forums. Thank you for watching.